Hello, Isaac here. Now, the Bible has had a huge influence on the English language. From Wycliffe to Tyndale to the King James translation, they have shaped the English language more than William Shakespeare or any playwright or poet or novelist. In other words, there are countless phrases, idioms, words that have come into the English language that we use in everyday speech. One of these idioms is go the extra mile. It means to put a lot of effort into achieving something, often exceeding others' expectations or doing more than what is strictly required of you. For example, you might say that your teacher really went the extra mile to help you. In other words, they really went above and beyond what was required of them to help their students succeed. Or you might hand in a piece of work to your teacher or to your boss, and they might say, wow, you have really gone the extra mile. In other words, you far exceeded their expectations of you and gone beyond what's required. Now this phrase, go the extra mile, comes from the Gospel of Matthew. In fact, it comes from in the context of the Sermon on the Mount when Jesus tells his followers to love their enemies. He tells them, you have heard it said, you shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I say to you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. In this context, Jesus tells them that if anyone forces them to go 1 mile, go also the 2nd mile.
You get a trim your moustache?
Why is it this?
It's like got all these funny split ends on it. I would suggest you do a little trim.
What? So what did it mean when Jesus told his followers to go the extra mile? Well, Judea was under Roman occupation, and there were soldiers stationed throughout the land. And these soldiers were known to abuse their privileges, requesting property and forced labor from local residents. This included forcing someone to carry their pack for 1 Roman mile. This would have been somewhat nuisance as well as humiliating. In fact, the Palestinian Talmud tells us that soldiers even forced Jews to carry their pack on the Sabbath, an obvious affront to Jewish sensibilities. And so, many of Jesus' contemporaries would have hated the Roman soldiers. In fact, there was a group known as the Sicarii, which would assassinate Roman officials in crowds. But in this context, Jesus says that when a soldier forces you to carry his pack, do not refuse or retaliate, or even simply comply. Instead, go the extra mile. In other words, show sacrificial love and compassion to your enemy, even when they force you to do something unjust. Certainly, the Roman soldier would be quite surprised by this. This is a different kind of rebellion from the Sicarii. But for Jesus, this is how you bring about God's rule or kingdom on earth. Now, this sacrificial love is based on the person of Jesus the Messiah, who goes the extra mile for us. Paul, in his letter to the Romans, tells us, very rarely will anyone die for a righteous person, though for a good person, someone might possibly dare to die. But God demonstrates his own love for us in this: while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. In other words, the costliest gift you can give is your own life. But we would not willingly give our lives for a person or cause not deserving of it, especially for someone considered an enemy who has caused us harm. But here, Paul tells us that the great expression of God's love is that Jesus died for sinners. In other words, for people who are unworthy of that great gift, who are by nature enemies of God. And so, Jesus goes the extra mile for us, not by carrying a pack for a Roman mile, but by carrying the burdens of our sin to the cross and dying for us. This is how God goes the extra mile. That whilst we were still sinners, Christ died for us.